6 p.m. Assalamu alaikum. This is Radio Pakistan. The news read by Daman Zaman. The headlines. The Prime Minister says economic progress has been achieved due to measures taken by the government to stabilize the economy. The advisor to the Prime Minister on Commerce and Textiles has said the government is making a policy to increase exports and decrease imports for economic stability of the country. The Minister for Religious Affairs and Interfaith Harmony has strongly denounced the incident of desecration of the Holy Quran in Norway. A former Indian External Affairs Minister has rebutted the Modi government's claim about normalcy in occupied Kashmir. The American president says they are now working on an agreement with the Taliban. Pakistan won the Asian Cricket Council Emerging Teams Cup, beating Bangladesh by 77 runs in the final at Dhaka today. And now the news in detail. Prime Minister Imran Khan says economic progress has been achieved due to measures taken by the government to stabilize the economy. In his comments on the social media today, he said the country's stock market has surged by 30% or almost 10,000 points during the last 3 months. The Prime Minister said he's proud of his economic team. He said during the last 4 months, the current account deficit has come to an end, and as a result of this, the value of the rupee has increased by 4 rupees. The Prime Minister also convened Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf's core committee meeting in Islamabad tomorrow. The advisor to the Prime Minister for Commerce and Textiles, Abdul Razak Daud, has said the government is making a policy to increase exports and decrease imports for the economic stability of the country. Presiding over a meeting about export strategy in Karachi today, he said the government wants to support the local industry through offering lucrative incentives to industrialists and businessmen. The advisor said the government is working on short and long-term policies simultaneously to boost the economy of the country. The Special Assistant on Information and Broadcasting, Firdaus Ashik Awan, has said the government will soon launch a crackdown against hoarders and profiteers to check price hike. Talking to media persons in Sialkot today, she said it is the resolve of the Prime Minister to provide relief to the people. She said the governance system of the provincial governments will be improved to achieve the desired objectives. She said the role of the middleman is also being abolished to check price hike. The Special Assistant said the government is faced with challenges of unemployment and inflation, and these will be addressed through wealth creation and industrialization. The Federal Minister for Information Technology, Khalid Maqbool Siddiqui, has said trade activities have increased in Karachi after restoration of peace in the metropolis. Talking to the mediaman after visiting an international exhibition at the Expo Center in Karachi today, he said holding of this kind of exhibitions and conferences will help in projecting a soft image of Karachi to the world. The Minister for Religious Affairs and Interfaith Harmony, Nurul Haq Qadri, has strongly denounced the incident of desecration of the Holy Quran in Norway. In a statement, he said Pakistan will lodge its protest with the Norwegian government on the matter. He said desecration of religion in the name of freedom of expression is condemnable. The federal minister said the incident in Norway has hurt the sentiments of over 1 billion Muslims. He said we as Muslims believe in respect of all religions. Nurul Haq Qadri said desecration of the Holy Quran and Islam is intolerable for us. He said such kinds of incidents are a threat to world peace. He said the Western countries should take steps to prevent such shameful acts. The State Bank of Pakistan and the National Database and Registration Authority would devise a feasible strategy to roll out the youth card under the Kamyab Jawan program at the earliest. The decision to this effect was taken at a meeting in Islamabad today with the Special Assistant to the Prime Minister on Youth Affairs, Usman Dar, and the Minister for Planning, Development and Reforms, Asad Umar, in the chair. The project is aimed at ensuring financial inclusion and economic empowerment of the youth in the country. The Special Assistant to the Prime Minister on Poverty Alleviation, Dr. Sania Nishtar, has said the SR's program is focused on economic empowerment of women. In an interview with APP, she said the government will explore ways to recognize the work of the rural women, pave the way for equal wages, and cover domestic work under legislation. She further said a policy is also being devised to encourage women for joint ownership of houses in the new housing schemes. This is Radio Pakistan. Two ships of the Pakistan Navy organized a medical camp in Mauritania as a goodwill gesture. Over 2,000 people were provided with treatment, medicines, and operations. The people of Mauritania highly appreciated the medical camp of the Pakistan Navy. In India, former BJP leader and former foreign minister Yashwant Sinha says the people of occupied Kashmir are angry and distressed over the Indian government's actions in the territory. In an interview in Srinagar, he refuted the Indian Home Minister Amit Shah's claim about normalcy in occupied Kashmir. He said the Home Minister gave one-sided picture of the Kashmir situation, and the statements made by him in the parliament are totally averse to the ground situation. Yashwant Sinha is part of a 5-member group which is on a visit to the Kashmir Valley. In occupied Kashmir, senior Hurriyat leader Professor Abdul Ghani Bhatt says India should accept the fact that Jammu and Kashmir is a recognized international dispute testified by the relevant United Nations resolutions. In a media interview in Srinagar, Professor Abdul Ghani Bhatt said if Kashmir dispute is not resolved, the situation can lead to a nuclear catastrophe in South Asia and the world will not be able to cope with its dangerous consequences. He said human rights violations in occupied Kashmir by the Indian troops are condemnable and military lockdown and gagging of internet are the worst kind of rights abuses. The American President Donald Trump says we are now working on an agreement with the Taliban. In an interview to Fox News, Donald Trump seemed to suggest that formal negotiations with the Taliban were back on months after the peace talks with them collapsed. Comments by the American president came several days after the Taliban released an American and Australian professor in exchange for the release of 3 Taliban prisoners by the Afghan government. In Afghanistan, 24 Taliban were killed in fresh clashes in Darzab district of Jawzjan province today. A spokesman of the provincial government said the Taliban clashed with the security troops who were involved in an ongoing cleanup operation in the area. 2 Afghan security forces members were also killed in the attack. The United Nations Special Envoy for Syria, Geir Pedersen, has called for a safe environment for advancement of political process in Syria. He informed the Security Council that a 45-member small group of committee, which is tasked to prepare and draft the constitutional proposals, have agreed to meet again on Monday in Geneva. Pedersen urged the need for fully respecting international humanitarian and human rights laws and protection of the civilians. Pakistan won the Asian Cricket Council Emerging Teams Cup, beating Bangladesh by 77 runs in the final at Dhaka today. Batting first, Pakistan scored 301 runs for the loss of 6 wickets in the stipulated 50 overs. In reply, Bangladesh were all out for 224 runs in 43.3 overs. Meanwhile, on the 3rd day of the Brisbane Cricket Test match against Australia, Pakistan in their second innings was 64 runs for the loss of 3 wickets at stumps today. Shan Masood and Babar Azam were at the crease with 27 and 20 runs, respectively. The scores so far, Pakistan 240 and 64 for 3, Australia 580. And finally, the weather. Mainly dry weather is expected in most parts of the country, while cold conditions are expected in the northern parts during the next 12 hours. However, isolated rain thunderstorm is expected in districts of Upper Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Gilgit-Baltistan and Kashmir. Foggy conditions are expected in the plain areas of the Punjab during morning hours. And that is the end of this news bulletin. For more news and analyses, log on to our website, radio.gov.pk, and you can also watch the live video streaming of our bulletins on the link, facebook.com/Radio Pakistan News Official.